We sold the kiosk business. We're no longer in the impact business. We're really now in tech. I believe I am the entrepreneur I am today because of my experience doing business in the US. When I was growing up, business was considered something you do on the side. The focus was school, get a job, you work for 30 some years till you retire. I started business earlier. I was 19. I did all kinds of businesses and I failed for the first 8 years. One thing I remember clearly said, nobody becomes successful at a job, financially successful. When I started entrepreneurship was to prove to my mom and sister that I can do it. That was my initial challenge. Long story short, a charging kiosk would be interesting. Put that in marketplace, bus stops and all traffic area where people can charge while they're doing the solution. But in my head, it sounded awesome, man. So you're catering to a customer base with zero or very low spending power. You don't know those things until you experience it. I could have done the research, absolutely, but I don't think that research would have stopped me because I was very passionate. So I moved from young men to focusing on women and people with disabilities.
To what point is it okay for the entrepreneur to say, I need to quit this?
Number one, I've quitted some business before, but I always quit it because I was no longer interested in that business. So you got to deal with the federal government every 2, 3, 4 months. They'll show up at your office, make sure you have all the P's and Q's and all that. The drivers are the most difficult people to deal with. It's going to take time for you to develop. That's why tech is the hardest business. People think because it's on the media and all, it's cute, it's nice, it's hard as hell.
Why are impact businesses hard?
All right. Whew. That's going another 2-3 hours on that. Entrepreneurship is a lonely road, man. And it's not for everybody. I've known people who went cuckoo starting businesses. But when I say cuckoo, is they lost it.
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I know we connected a while back. I was probably getting started. You were one of the first, let's say, entrepreneurs who were building technology, but also trying to focus a little bit on the social aspect of it, what technology can do, the good that technology can do for the ecosystem or your target market. And I remember I was looking for tips from your side and super excited to be reconnecting. What have you been up to?
What I've been up to. So we haven't talked in a few years now. So since then, we sold the kiosk business. And we started a new venture that was actually part of the kiosk business, but we made it a different venture, and then we're no longer in the impact business. We're really now in tech, straightforward tech business, non-impact if you can call it, but we're more now in what we call digital infrastructure. So we're helping company with the digital transformation, by bringing low-cost storage computing power into one bundle solution. So that's what we've been doing. So it took us. So let me take you a little bit back.
Yeah.
COVID changed a lot of things. I'm sure I'm not the only one that can say that. But when COVID happened, it really affected us. It affected our kiosk business. At that time, we were in 6 countries with 5 different partners, including Rwanda. So at that time, we were selling kiosks to NGOs, local partners, and all those things. So when COVID happened, a lot of the NGOs and partners we had kind of went out of business. Well, 3 of them actually. So we had an option either to close, and we had an opportunity to sell to a company based in Hong Kong that were looking for a kiosk business for the Asian market. So we decided, okay, do they want the whole business? They didn't want the whole business. They just wanted a kiosk business. So we sold the kiosk and then decided to move forward and start developing this new venture. But that's what I've been doing. And of course, family time has been very more important for me the last few years also.
Yeah, sounds exciting, man. We're going to dive into some of those topics as well to try and understand all of that and unpack it.
Sure.
But let's take a couple of years back to Henri. When you look at your life now, right? I think you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot now.
Yeah.
But when you now reflect back to your life, what do you believe are some of the things that shaped you into the person you are today? So there could be events that happened, growing up, places that you've been that now when you look at it, you're like, oh, I had to go through that for me to become the person I am today.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't change what happened to me. A lot of things have changed. The first thing that changed is when my mom decided my sister and I goes to the U.S. The U.S. had a huge impact on me. I believe I am the entrepreneur I am today because of my experience doing business in the U.S. When I was growing up, business was considered something you do on the side. The focus was school, get a job, you work for 30-some years till you retire. That was my parents' mindset, and that's what they were telling us. You do a business to round out the end of the month type of stuff. So I always looked at, because my mom was in business back then, so I always looked at business that way. And then when I got to the U.S., it definitely changed. That's the first big change that happened to me. The second change was the birth of my daughter, my firstborn. That changed my life. Because back then I was, let me put it this way, I was not the school type of guy. I was a troublemaker type of guy. I failed my last year of high school. I had to redo it. I hated school. It didn't make sense, but I didn't realize then. Well, I know now why, but it didn't make sense to me. School didn't make sense. I remember when I graduated from high school, my mom said, you gotta go to university. I was like, what is university? Oh, 4 more years of school? I was like, oh my God. But I had no choice. You're a kid, you follow what your parents say. But I had my firstborn at 24, and that changed my life. I had to focus. I couldn't be, just because I was just trying to figure out life just like any kid. But now I had to speed up the process. So I always say my daughter changed my life. And then the other thing that shaped me really is I started business earlier. I was 19. I did all kinds of businesses. And I failed for the first 8 years. I mean, literally failed. And when you fail, it's not failure where, you got a job. Me, I always jump into business, everything, jump in the water, and I figured out how to swim while I'm in the water. I'm not that kind of guy who's going to read, research, do this, do that before. No, I don't have time for that. If I feel an opportunity, I just jump. And I figured out the things as I go. And it could be a good things, but it could also be a bad things. And the bad thing is when you fail, then you have to call mom or your sister for some money, So that was my story for 6-7 years. Well, I was getting part-time jobs, do business, fail, get some backup money. And at some point, my family was like, hey, maybe this is not for you, Henry. You need to. So, but something inside me told me, keep going, man. You gotta keep going. So that tenacity really taught me a lot. And it taught me that as long as you keep fighting, you'll get to your goal. That's the number one lesson I learned from entrepreneurship. As long as you don't quit, you will achieve your goals. So, and that was my next lesson, I would say. And then the other crossroad, I had a few, but I'll talk about this last one. When I finally had my first successful business, I was 27, and it was the most successful to this day. I did it for 6-7 years. It was in trucking. So I had a logistical company. I was doing 50 states. I was moving food. I was moving clothes. I was doing some military transport contracts, all kinds of stuff. I had a fleet of 10 trucks. I hated that business. It was my most successful business. To this day, I hated that business. It's highly regulated. So you got to deal with the federal government every 2-3-4 months. They'll show up at your office, make sure you have all the P's and Q's and all that. The drivers are the most difficult people to deal with. They steal, they do this, they do that. All kinds of stuff. I got story for days on that level. And I realized you need to love what you're doing. I started having a health issue because of stress. So that taught me another lesson where, it's not just about money. basically. Because in the beginning, early days, you're just focusing on money. You don't know better. If you don't have it, you just think money is going to solve all your problems. And that's not true. You got to love what you do. Because waking up doing something you hate is the worst thing ever. And I did that for a long time. So that journey took me to the kiosk business, basically.
Very interesting. Let's unpack a few things there, right? So first of all, I want to understand your philosophy of, let's say, life, and it's going to lead us into entrepreneurship, because I want to understand what was the thing that was attracting you to being an entrepreneur, right? So I believe that there's a bunch of different reasons why people want to become entrepreneurs, right? So number one is out of necessity, because I have no other choice, right? Than to actually build, literally employ myself and get myself a job. There are other people who become an entrepreneur almost by accident. So let's say, for example, you're a genius in a certain area, and then you discover something, and then it turns out to be a great business, and then you become an entrepreneur, right? And there are other people who are just rebels, right? Where they look at life and they're like, okay, I'm not going to do what everybody's doing. I'm not interested in a job. I really want to be the master of my own destiny, right? And I feel like business gives me that opportunity to really shape my life. What would you say is your, maybe out of those, maybe could be another reason. But what is the thing that was attracting you to?
It was not attracting. I was more the rebel side. I had a problem with authority all my life. I had a problem with parenting authority. And it came from different reasons. My parents getting divorced and all that. So I started, being a rebel, teenage, rebellious on different things. And when I started working at jobs, I couldn't keep a job. I had a problem, always had a problem with my bosses. Especially when I knew that I knew more than my boss. Oh, that was it, man. I knew I wasn't going to make it. Before I already knew. The thing was, how long can I survive to get that paycheck before I get fired? So I always got either fired or let go because of my authority issue. I always had a problem with authority. So business was more of, I stumbled into business. My first business was in sales. So it was a company called, I'll never forget, Equinox International. They were recruiting sales on commission, strictly on commission. And that appealed to me. You work on your own hours. You are, you control the revenue you get, because whatever you do will give you that reward, right? So if you put 50%, you get 50% out. If you get 100%, you get. So that logic made sense to me. Right? That logic was, now you are in control of your destiny. That made sense to me. Nobody's there to tell me what to do for a static paycheck that give you 3% raise. And I'm not knocking anybody on the job level. I'm not saying that, because business is not for everybody anyway. But at the same time, for me, it was like, that made sense, And then now it's about developing your skill sets. And the more skills you are, the better you can perform, right? And business, what interests me is you're not just responsible. As you grow, you bring other people that are also responsible to the business success. That made sense. There's I don't know who said it, but it's better get 100%, 1% of $100. Is 1% from 100 people than 100% of yourself, right? You have a better chance to be successful like that. So all this, I believe in common sense. All this made sense because, again, I'm always been a little bit business mindset when I was a kid, right? I remember selling my bikes for a little bit of money, doing the usual stuff, that kids do just to get a little bit of money to do whatever they have to do. So I always had that sense, but until I got into this ecosystem, I got into sales, I got into some training because they were offering training, and they were saying things that was making sense to me. One thing I remember clearly said, nobody becomes successful at a job, financially successful. No one gets successful based on their own effort. So those are the things that I early on start studying. So and learning. And I was like, man, that makes sense. This is my lane. Now that lane ended up being more difficult than I anticipated. Because when you start business, you logically think, I do A, B will happen. I do B, C will happen. But I've never, now later on, I understood that the human factor is a factor that you don't control. And the human factor is what makes business, You don't do business with machines and all that. You do business with people. And people are unpredictable, right? You can predict certain aspects, but in general, you can't. You can be, I don't know if it happens to you, but I'm sure it does. You can be in the middle of a deal. You're almost at signing, something happened, the deal is off because of A, B, C, and D, right? So that human factor, I didn't know it back then. I thought I present a solution to a problem and then I get a sale. That was my logic, right?
Yeah.
I go, but then it doesn't work like this. So that took another 6-7 years before I really became successful and understood that concept.
Yeah. Very interesting. So how is the rebel now in you? Is it still? Are you still fighting authority, or you?
No. I've learned how to channel my energy other ways, right?
Yeah.
When you have kids, also they drain you, man. No, I was. What I hate the most is injustice. I hate injustice. And every time I feel that there's injustice toward me or somebody else, that's when I used to raise my voice and all those things. But as I got older, I'm realizing there's better ways also to do certain things. But I still got fight in me. It's just a different type of fight now. It's more constructive. But back then, it was just clashes, no fight, fist fight, but clashes, wording. When you talk before thinking,
yeah,
that was me. So now I think before I talk. At least more than before. But it's good. It builds your character because entrepreneurship is the hardest thing I did in my life. I don't think there's anything harder than entrepreneurship for me. And I went through tough time, but entrepreneurship was the toughest. And you gotta have thick skin, man. You can't just, dealing with rejections. That was my biggest issue also in the early days, rejections. But now I try to teach that, there's other ways to solve issues and to fight, right?
Yeah.
But plus the fighting is for the youngins then. I've done my bit, man. I've done my bit.
Yeah.
I'm semi-retired, as they say.
Interesting. I don't think an entrepreneur ever retires, but
I think, when I say retire, doing other things.
Yeah.
My passion now for the last 3 years has been coaching. I do a lot of coaching gigs now.
Like one-on-one with entrepreneurs, or like?
No, one-on-one, or I work with organization. Like right now, I'm working with Private Boop. It's powered by GIZ. Yeah. They have a bunch of companies from different countries. So I'm with 4 or 5 coaches. So I do coaching now. I love, because one thing, when I was starting, nobody coached me. Yeah, I went to seminars. I did a lot of, there was no YouTube back then. YouTube came a little bit later.
Yeah.
But you can get a lot of information on YouTube for sure. But somebody sharing not just the knowledge, which is very important, but sharing their network, sharing their contacts and all. I think that's very important, which the ecosystem is missing also. Because I see a lot of talents, but they're talented in one thing, but they just don't know how to get the voice out, right? Because they don't have the connection they need. They don't know what direction they go. And this, I don't want to deviate from the conversation, because there's a lot of key gaps happening in the marketplace in Africa in general, including Rwanda. And if you don't find a way to get help for those, it's going to be very difficult for any entrepreneur to move forward. So that's what I love to do. It's a different game. I like to fight for others now instead of for myself.
Yeah.
But I still, and by the way, this is my last business. I'm officially saying that this is definitely my last business. But when I started entrepreneurship, was to prove to my mom and sister that I can do it. That was my initial challenge. I had to show to them that I can make this happen. And they didn't mean anything wrong. I don't want to sound like they were negative, but when you have so many failures, my sister will tell you, because we've had that discussion, she, to this day, she said, I don't know how you do it. Because my sister like a steady paycheck. Anything that fluctuates, she get extremely anxious. Yeah. She gets stressed out to the roof. Yeah. Right? And she doesn't understand how to do things. Because sometimes I call her and say, hey, man, this guy hasn't paid me for 3 months, this challenge, that challenge, right? And she keep asking me how you do it. But when I was starting and I was failing, I'll never forget, I can still hear it. My mom calling me, is like, Henry, it's time for you to get a job. I can't keep sending you money. And I understand. It was a burden. You're sending dollars from Burundi, because that's where I grew up, to help my behind out, because I did a business that didn't work out. Now you got to pay my mortgage, or you got to pay my rent. So that process really affected me to the point where I had to show to them that this is the path I want to do, but I have to show that I can make it happen. And I did finally, but it took a long time. So that was my drive in the beginning. Then my drive became, okay, now I've chased money. The money came. I was not fulfilled. How can I do to have an impact now, right? And that's when the kiosk business was born. But now it's like, okay, now it's more, how can I help the next generation, get to their dreams, right? So that's why I say it's my last gig, because I have nothing to prove anymore. It has to be a purpose to what you're doing, always. Yeah. If you don't have no purpose in what you're doing, you're not going to go far. And my purpose it changed over time. But now I feel like it's time now to give back to the next generation.
Yeah. You talked about something around quitting, which, if you don't quit, then you will eventually achieve what you're looking for. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think there's a lot of takes that different people have about quitting, right? Some people say that quitting is actually for winners. It's not for losers, right? That was the best winners actually know one time to quit and when to quit, so they can focus their energy on what's working, right? And we've also seen a lot of companies that when they drop that product that is not working and they actually focus on what's actually working, when they're honest with themselves, then they actually eventually achieve product market fit, right? Yeah. The best companies in the world didn't start, as what they are. I think there's a famous story about Slack, how it started as a mobile game, and then they realized, we had built an amazing tool for productivity and communication internally. So the game is not working, let's drop it, even if that's our baby. But this tool is actually working, and look at them now, right? So let's talk a little bit about quitting, because there might be people who are holding on to things that are just not working just because they're afraid of and being labeled as, I failed, or an idea that I was putting out in the world did not work out. So tell me a little bit about that mindset and how you think about quitting. Should you stay longer? Should you know when to quit? Also, what's the formula to quitting?
Yeah, first of all, one thing I learned is no such thing as failure. But let's get back to quitting. There is a difference between quitting and pivoting, right? Now, when I say quitting, quitters don't win. That's my philosophy. That don't mean you don't pivot when your model is not working, right? I've never had a business that grew instantly when I get started. All the businesses I've done in my life took me about a year or two before I find the right model that works. But I kept pivoting. I kept testing. I kept doing different things, right? Now, if you keep doing the same thing, hoping things will change, that's a problem, right? But if you keep testing, something will catch. Something will happen, and you'll see what's working. I'll give you an example. I'll give you two examples. When I started trucking, first, because I was in real estate first before I did trucking. So I had a little bit of extra money, and I meet this guy who's a trucker. He's telling me how much he's making. I was like, oh my gosh. So 2 weeks later, I'm in trucking business.
How many industries?
There's a story behind it, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
What? I was like, I got to get into the business. Again, same thing. I jump into the business, no research, no nothing.
Yeah.
I go, I buy a truck, I buy a trailer. I'm talking about the 40-foot trailer and all those things. And the first 3 months, I'm losing money, man. I'm losing money. I'm paying the drivers. I'm getting lows. I'm busy, but I'm not making any money. So I'm on my calculation. I didn't calculate fuel cost. I didn't calculate repair cost, maintenance cost. Because again, I never did that business. I don't know better, right? So after 3 months, I'm like, something is not adding up, man. Because I'm seeing the books. I'm doing X. I'm spending X plus, right? So I pivot. I did 3 pivots on that business. I pivot. I'm like, okay, now I need to only take loads that pay me enough to cover the maintenance. That pivot helped me to break even. And I did the last pivot really changed the game. Was I realized that my biggest expense was on that asset, on that truck maintenance and repair and fuel. So I realized instead of doing that, why don't I hire drivers that already have trucks and they run under my license? So I don't have to do repairs and all that. I get a percentage of the revenue. They get most of it, but they deal with all the expenses. And then I became highly profitable, right? So that's pivoting. I didn't quit. It took 2 years to achieve that, right? I could have quit after 3 months because I was not making money, but I kept pivoting. What I see businesses do is they don't pivot. They keep doing the same thing over and over and over, saying it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. You need to change something, but you need to really go into detail of your business. What is not working? What is it missing? Where is the cost? Where is the expenses and all of that? That really the important part. The same thing about the kiosk. When I started the kiosk, again, same thing. I come to Rwanda, I bring the kiosk. It took 2 years to develop the first kiosk. And the business model was a franchise model. And my numbers were off, man. Oh my gosh, I was so off. It was ridiculous, man. I thought I was going to make $1 on every phone charge. I thought I was going to make charge your franchise fees, just like in the US. Man, 6 months later, first of all, that $1, I remember it was 10 cents. The max you can charge for phone charge. Yeah. Already the numbers divided by 10, So franchise fee, forget about it, because we're dealing with people with low-income communities. They don't have money to pay for fees and all that. So, but that pivot took a long time, right? Because there was other factor that we were trying to control, because we wanted to control the charging infrastructure. But anyway, at the end, we realized that's suicide, because and that's what I always say, there's 3 types of businesses out there. But going back, I realized I'm better off selling the asset at a margin and a cost for maintenance of the stuff to become profitable, and break even. But by that time we were doing that, it was time to sell anyway. But our books started changing. And then other things, that business, for example, I started with phone charging. I realized phone charging alone was not going to be enough. So I started adding airtime sales. I started adding mobile money. And finally, I added Wi-Fi. And every time I added a layer, it brought me more revenue, right? So same thing, I keep pivoting. The challenge also is you got to have enough cash to last you long enough to find the right pivot that works for you to become profitable. A lot of time people run out of money, and then they have to close. But quitting does not mean don't pivot. If something doesn't work, pivot. Find the right model. Find what's missing. Find what are the costs that that you're spending that can be problematic. Analyze your business model in detail. I guarantee you'll find a way to improve, change, and all that. That's what I say. But quitting, nah.
But that's the thing. I think there's the balance between pivoting and quitting. It's still, that differentiation is very, 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 very small, right? Because sometimes they have to quit. Like sometimes you have to quit that business, right? Because also, as you mentioned, pivoting costs money, right? And one thing that we all have as, let's say, entrepreneurs, sometimes when we're starting businesses, especially, let's say, technology businesses trying to disrupt a specific sector, trying to bring something new, is we're trying to impose something into the world because it's not existent, right? If you're trying to just replicate a restaurant, like somebody has done a restaurant, there's a blueprint on how to make it work that you can learn from. Doesn't guarantee that it's going to be successful, but there's something to start with. But if you're trying to run a new business, a new kind of technology, a new business model, nobody else has done that. So there's no, playbook to play with. So you're trying to impose something into the world, and entrepreneurs can be very stubborn. They're like, no, I know the world needs this. I know these people need this. But then sometimes the market slaps you in the face and says, no, we don't actually need it. Maybe this could have been better off an existing alternative, just improving a little bit. We didn't need a whole new technology to come into play to actually disrupt this market. So I'm trying to understand, to what point is it okay for the entrepreneur to say, okay, I need to quit this? Is it after second, third, fourth pivot? Is it, when do you say, okay, now it's okay to actually do that instead of continuing investing money in pivoting?
So I'll answer that question in two ways. Right. Number one, I've quitted some business before, but I always quit it because I was no longer interested in that business. Not because I didn't believe I could find a way to. Remember, I failed for 7 years. I did 5-6 business during that 7 years, e-commerce, name it, I did it all. But I lost interest, so you can call it quit, but I call it giving up. I gave up on that business, right? I didn't quit in a sense where I didn't believe I can get it profitable. I just gave up. And I think if you lose interest on something, giving up is okay. It's fine, because if you got to be passionate what you're doing, because you have to have a drive that's going to push you before you even see any money. There has to be an engine within you that's going to keep pushing you to wake up in the morning, to go and do what you're supposed to do, no matter what the situation is. That's passion. If you don't have passion in what you're doing, that's already you send yourself a failure, all right? Because it takes time to build a business. That's what a lot of entrepreneurs, and I didn't understand that either. As I told you, I thought you should do A, become, in 6 months, I'm a millionaire. That was my mindset, and a lot of young men and women say mindset. But it takes time. But the problem I also see is there's 3 types of business. And that we don't, we don't realize. We think there's only one type. You're doing business, you register. No, there's 3 types of business. If you're focusing on money, you need to stick to businesses that already have an existing ecosystem, an existing proof of concept. Like trucking, for example. You don't really need to reinvent the wheel on trucking. The cost, if you do your research, you do it. Not like me, man. Please don't follow my lead. Huh? You can break down your cost, and then the contracts on the truck is upfront, meaning that the amount they're going to pay you to go from point A to point B. That's an existing knowing business. Import-export, same thing. There's a restaurant business, so on and so forth. Those are existing business that can get you cash flow very quickly. Now, I'm not saying they're easy, but their rate of success is a little bit much higher than the second type of business that I mentioned, which is what I call innovation and invention. You see, we all want to be innovators. We all want to invent something. That's when you talked about changing, bringing a new model, the market slap on your face, because you bring something new. So you have to understand that anytime you bring something new, it's going to take time to educate your customer base. It's going to take time to educate the market. It's going to take time for you to develop. That's why tech is the hardest business. People think because it's on the media and all, it's cute, it's nice, all this, it's hard as hell. It takes time to build a tech company, even in the West. The only difference is they have access to capital, we don't, right? So I know tech, Uber just got profitable after 10 years. Do you think an African company would have lasted 10 years without being profitable and raise billions of dollars? You see, that's the thing. They're able to have working capital to figure out their way to profitability. We don't have that luxury, right? So, and then the last one is impact business. To me, that's the hardest one, right? By far, the hardest one. I thought I did hard business. Oh my gosh, impact business is hard as that. So you have to make a decision when you decide what you want to do. Do I want to make money quickly and increase? Then do a business that has a proven track record. Let me put it this way: that has already some track record in the market, and then I find a few things different that I can do. Nothing big, but I can plug into that existing ecosystem. And I'll be cash flow, maybe not cash flow positive quickly, but at least cash will come much quicker. But if you get into tech, for example, into innovation, let's put innovation, because tech's a big topic. But innovation, invention, it's going to take 2 to 3 years before you even see anything, right? 2 to 3 years just to develop your product, educate the customer. And we're going through right now with our new technology. But if in your mind you think you're going to be in 6 months, maybe not profitable, but let's say you're going to generate $10,000, right, in 6 months, you're already lost, because it's just not going to happen. Especially the more advanced your innovation is, the more time it's going to take you. You know, Uber today is a no-brainer. But imagine how it was back then. You know, people look at a technology when they're already established, right? And they say, oh, wow, look at them. They're worth billions of dollars and all. But they don't understand the journey.
Yeah.
They don't go through the journey. They're not sitting on the shoes of the person. They don't know what that person had to go through to convince customer A, B, and C to get where they are today. That journey is tough for everybody. And it's tougher as more innovative your product or services are. Yeah. You know, so you have to prepare your mind when you decide what business you want to do. I never did that for the first 10 years. I do that now. I always play the 10 years game now. Right now, in the last 10 years, I don't worry about the first year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, I don't worry about those things. That doesn't mean they're not important. I make sure I execute. But if I don't make any money and all those things, I understand I'm playing the long game, and you have to play the long game. You know, if you play the short game, you're going to lose, and then you're going to have to quit. Yeah. Don't give up.
Tell me about why are impact businesses hard?
Oh, man. Whew. Let's go another 2-3 hours on that. On this podcast, man. Oh, man. So let me tell you my story, because I don't know anybody else's story. And I coach a lot of impact business now. So when they share their pain, I'm just, my head is down, I'm just shaking. Like, I understand what, because I can feel the pain, man.
I feel you, man.
You know when somebody tells you a pain that you've experienced yourself, and you're like, you are automatically bonded with that person? Yeah. Yeah, that's me, man. But, man, listen, impact. So, you know, I'm doing trucking. I'm doing very well, but I'm stressed out. I hate the business. And I'm starting missing home, right? I'm start coming here. Well, my parents stayed in Burundi, but I was coming to Burundi, but coming here because I had family here also. And then I remember in 2010, I made a decision. I need to go back home. Like, I felt like I reached a peak in the U.S., right? I feel like there's nothing else for me to prove. I was good. And I wanted to do something else, but I wanted to do something with an impact. Back then, it was all called impact, by the way. I'm talking about 2009, 2010. Huh? I'm talking about 14 years ago. But there was this movement of helping the low-income communities in Africa. It was starting. I was like, man, I want to be in that space. And back then, renewable energy was picking up. You know, that's when the topic of renewable energy sounds like. But I didn't want to do, I looked at a whole bunch of business. Initially, I wanted to manufacture solar panel. But I looked at the cost. I was like, nah, this ain't going to happen.
Yeah. So, and you had made some money from the truck business. Right?
Yeah. Everything that the first 5 years of the kiosk, even the development, I mean, I spent $250,000 on the kiosk just before I even got invested. So I was not struggling for capital, but I was very naive of the ecosystem. I was naive of what dealing with low-income communities mean. But so I'm thinking. I come up with this kiosk charging. I found out from the airport. I remember smartphone was coming up also. Yeah. I remember back then, feature phone was the way to go. There was not that many smartphones like today. Smartphone was coming up, so you juiced out really quickly. So I saw at this airport in Amsterdam, they had this charging thing. And I remember being in bars in Burundi and all that, and people were always asking the barman to charge their phone. So long story short, I was like, man, a charging kiosk would be interesting. Put that in marketplace, bus stops and all traffic area where people can charge while they're doing their solution. Man, in my head, it sounded awesome, man.
You could just picture.
Oh, man, I was
charging.
And I remember drawing the picture. I swear to God, in my office, I was drawing the picture out of. Of course, that picture was horrible. Huh? Thank God the engineer was like, nah, it don't happen. But I was drawing. I was all that. I was excited.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my mom, Mom, I'm coming back home. First of all, I was telling my mom, I'm leaving the U.S. What? Good. Why go leave your business that is successful and now finally you have something tangible, Henry, and now you want to venture into? And then when I said no, I want to do a kiosk to help low-income community. Oh, I lost her. What? So I was like, you know what, Henry, be quiet. Just keep that idea for yourself. Just work on it. I was not getting the feedback I was looking for, right? So I was like, so it took me 3 years to develop the first prototype. And that was the first lesson. Hardware is tough as hell. Oh my God. I respect anybody who's in the hardware space because that was no joke. Again, I jumped into that, no research, no nothing. Hired an engineer, and I kept spending. Thank God I had money coming in, but I kept spending. So I come to run up with 10, the first one was 5 prototype. And I get here, and as I said, I realized quickly $1 per charge is not going to happen, 10 cents. And then I come across a whole bunch of stuff, challenges. First, I was hiring young men operating the kiosk. They were stealing money because, we have to share some of the money for charging was going to come to them. Some of the money they had to pay and so on and so forth. Then I came into some regulation stuff. I remember the first kiosk was in Nyabugogo. And to have a space in Nyabugogo, you have to be authorized by. But back then, I don't remember now. Actually, they banned now kiosks back. But back then, you had to authorization from the city of Kigali. That took 6 months. Just 6 months to get a letter say, yeah, you can do a kiosk in your. So I'm sitting 6 months doing nothing, just going around networking and all those things. And then I start adding 10 more kiosks, 20 more kiosks going up country. But my costs kept going up. Revenue, just nothing, and you don't understand. I mean, as you start analyzing, you realize that low-income communities don't have money to spend. They don't have, spending powers, right? So you're catering to a customer base with zero or very low spending power. They prioritize, and you don't know those things until you experience it. I could have done a research, absolutely, but I don't think that research would have stopped me. Because I was very passionate. So I moved from young men to focusing on women and people with disabilities. Women perform much better on those kiosks than men. So those data start coming in.
Any particular reason?
Well, they're much more responsible. So I had a kiosk operator. My thinking was, if I help somebody who has no job and I give them an opportunity to earn, they'll take this very seriously. I was totally wrong. As soon as some of them, not all of them, some of the men start making money, start drinking, start not showing up, start this. And that's where the training program came later. I realized I needed to develop a training program. But what I found out, and that's been documented for the industry, women take businesses and things more seriously, especially women with kids or children. because their priority is their kids, right? School fees and all that. So I have way less issues with the women than the men. So I started implementing those changes, right? Gradually and all. But revenue did not add up. Even when I added more services and all those things, it's just, you can have volume, but volume at a penny, it's not that much money, you know? So I started looking at sponsorship to put ads on the kiosk. And we had our first partner was Airtel. In a long run, short story, it didn't work out. But that was more profitable. That became profitable with that deal, but it didn't work out for multiple reasons. Mostly delays on payments. They didn't see the value of this branding aspect. And then they wanted exclusivity, which was also a challenge because you depended. And it's not consistent, right? So it took me years, but fundamentally, impact. When you service low-income people, I was depending a lot on grant money. I mean, we raised $2 million on grant. And at some point, I realized that's not going to be sustainable. That's just not going to be sustainable. Because when the grant dies, you die with it, you know? And I realized that there has to be a component to subsidize your impact on the ground. But by then, I was tired back. But when you service a community that don't have purchasing power, you are doomed to fail. That's why if you look at most businesses, they always target the same type of customer, middle class or upper class. You know, you need capitalism is it's not a science, right? The zeros and ones has to make sense, right? Mm-hmm. If your costs exceed your revenue, you're not going to make it. And there's no way when you deal with when you deal with middle class, upper class, you can increase your cost, right? If you want to increase your margins, right? You can do that. You can't do that on the low income communities. They can barely make it with what? So it's not that they didn't need the service. They just didn't have the money to pay more to make this business sustainable. So that's why impact is so hard, because you're dealing in an ecosystem that has very low income. How do you build a business around that? I won't say it's impossible. It's very difficult. If you look at till today, there's huge subsidies on renewable energy. There's huge subsidies on agriculture. There's huge subsidies on anything that has to do with impact, because they know that without that subsidies, most of those companies will die. Now, the problem with those subsidies also, they take a long time to get. There's a lot of bureaucracy behind it. So it was a wonderful 9 years of my life. And I say it because we impacted a lot of people, and I learned a lot. And that's what I value now today. I value three things in my life. Knowledge, because that's what I said, there was no failure. I used to think failure has this stigma when you're young. People gonna talk about me, they're gonna say this, they're gonna say that. But you don't realize the man or woman you become when you go through a challenging journey, right? You're not the same, but you don't realize it till later on, So the knowledge I acquired through that experience is massive. The growth I've acquired through that experience is massive. And I'm at peace, I always look at peace, internal peace, those are the three things I value. That's what I got. So some people might say we fail, but no, I've learned a lot. Today, knowing what I know, I would have done it differently, obviously. But what I like now, the game has changed. Carbon credit is about to change a lot of the dynamic. I think carbon credit will help impact business become sustainable much faster. It's a very interesting model. We'll see how it's implemented. But the game has improved, but it's still tough, man. It's still tough, man. Yeah. Plus you're dealing with, there's so many layers of difficulties, and it was not the issue because the ecosystem was not developed. So you end up having to provide a solution, train the people, do the maintenance, maintenance, repair, and all those things. Back then, mobile money was not yet, there was no API and all those things. So you have to find a way to collect the money. Digitization was not as, so you have to deal with so many on the value chain instead of, outsourcing, So that add to your expenses, So I think I was too early also, but it's still very difficult. Impact for me is by far the most difficult type of business. You gotta be extremely, extremely passionate to get into that space, and it's even harder if you have a hardware components, right? If you just do software or apps, it's less of a challenge. But now with internet and all that growing, you see fintech, but even fintech companies don't make most of their money from low-income people. They make their money from remittance, from the diaspora, because that's where they can charge their fees. They can't charge fees to low-income communities. Yeah. They're not going to use their product, So it's hard, man. It's really, so it was the toughest thing, but it really built my character, man. I can always, when you've been to the mud, now there's nothing really fazed me anymore, So I'm glad I went through this. It was an experience, man. It was.
But there's an ecosystem component as well in that process, because I think earlier we were talking about how you were able to, launch into other markets and you saw a little bit more success, let's say, in those markets. So what do you think was the ecosystem? Piece when it comes to building an impact business as well, is that maybe some ecosystem might be harder than others. What was it in your experience?
So Rwanda has a very unique ecosystem, right? It's an ecosystem that is very government-led, right? Even today, as much as they claim they won't be privatizing stuff, it's still very well government-led. So you can't do anything without government approval. I told you I waited 6 months just to get approval to have a kiosk, and you don't have the same issues, for example, in Uganda, where I could have I put a kiosk. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not here to debate if the policies are better or what. That's not my goal. I'm just saying, in Uganda, or in other market, we're able to deploy the kiosk much faster. Here, every district I went, I had to talk to the mayor, vice mayor, send a proposal, wait for reply. That are 6-7 months. That was
then
really
they went on leave.
And they don't run exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh, don't remind me. Oh, that's. Oh, we're missing a signature. He's on vacation. Oh my gosh. And they don't understand that you live off your business. You don't have any additional income. That was my biggest frustration, man. Yeah. They tell you to chill, like they're getting a salary. They think you're getting I don't know what they think, So that ecosystem is very difficult. And to this day, I always say regulation is needed. The problem is the process to access that regulation needs to be fixed. Even today, you try to be, you need this regulatory stuff. It takes you 3 to 6 months. That has to change. But anyway, the second thing is the mindset. I've always felt, and I still feel today strongly, that the entrepreneurship mindset is not part of the Rwandan ecosystem yet. It's changing. I've been back 11 years now. Trust me. 2013 and now, it's a little bit better. Yeah. We still have some ways to go, but it's a little bit better. And I think because of the amount of foreigners coming in and doing business, I think that's helped to move the ecosystem a little bit faster. But the mindset is still not there. We don't have that partnership mindset. It's very difficult to partner with government because, like I said, government lead everything here. But it's very difficult for a startup to partner with a government. Government agencies should have a department for innovations that are run by people that have been in business, not government people. I guarantee that will change a lot of stuff. I know recently they changed the law where startups can get into procurements with government. I don't know how's that going, but that's a good move. But we still have a long way to go. When you have an ecosystem that is government-led, government has to find a way to work with the ecosystem much more fluidly, because they have to understand that, and it's difficult because it's such a big machine dealing with a startup machine. And there's ways to do that, but we're not there yet. So we never made any money here. Most of the money came from outside. It's just the bottom line because of all those friction. There was a lot of friction here. But yeah, I mean, I always say if I had stayed in Rwanda, I would have closed the shop a long time ago. But the expansion really helped me, and I always push startup to expand as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit as well. When it comes to, I think what you mentioned, we always talk a lot about, let's say failing or closing down a business or selling it is a great thing because you've learned a lot in that process. But then we don't talk enough about with the knowledge you have today, what would you have done differently? Because I think I also come to that realization because now we're building our company for like 7 years. I think every day I just wake up and I'm like, if I just knew what I know now, these are 3-4 things that we've done differently the first year of our business to set us up for success, right? But then you only learn those things after you've gone through them. But I feel like they're always very interesting because you're like, okay, if you had a second chance to be able to run the same business,
sure,
from the day one, what are some of the things you would have done differently?
Number one is the business model. The business model was flawed. So obviously, I mean,
maybe you would have done some research.
I would have found a partner from the get-go, right? An NGO. Telco is also very difficult to work with here. Everywhere, but here more. Because again, they don't have the mindset of partnership. You see, an ecosystem has to have a specific mindset to really move the ecosystem forward. But I would have found a partner, most likely an NGO, to work with and focus more. You see, in business, the perfect business is where you stay focused on what you're good at. And then you find partners that can deal with the rest, especially if you have a business that has multiple components, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you do everything yourself, especially if you're low on cash or you don't have a lot of capital. That's a mistake a lot of us do, right? Because the ecosystem is not well developed. So you find yourself doing A, B, C, and D and all, but your core business is A, right? But you do B, C, D and all, and then you stretch you out, and then it's very difficult to be profitable. So partnership is really mama, and that's what we use for expansion, by the way.
Yeah,
partnership. I wouldn't waste my time trying to. We think by controlling and everything we'll make it. No, it doesn't work like this. Now partnership has its risk also, but that's fun. Right? There's no business with no risk anywhere, whether you do it on your own or you do it with a partner. But find a partner. You'll move faster, and you'll be able to grow and think. The second thing, I would have expanded much faster outside Rwanda. It took me about a year and a half, 2 years to get outside Rwanda. And I went outside because I was frustrated about the market here. That's really the reason why I would have expanded much faster. And third thing, I would have definitely not set up shop in other market, that's what I did in Uganda, which was a big mistake. And the mistake was, and that's something you can't control. The geopolitics in this region is very dynamic, meaning today is good, tomorrow is bad, and it affects you. So when the problem with Rwanda and Uganda happens, I lost 2 contracts because I was Rwanda. 2 big contracts. Yeah. At least them, they told me straight up. Yeah, we can't deal with you. So they told me, and it cost me a lot of money. So because of the geopolitics of the region, you have to find a way to build a partnership model to minimize the risk. The reality is Africa is still risky. And I'm not talking about war, but anytime there's some dynamic like this, it can cost your business, right? So partnership, that's an expansion. So those are the main thing I would do. Again, I think I was too early carbon credit was not even a topic back then. The kiosk would have been much more successful now. With now the modules of carbon credits and all that coming into the market to help out. Digitization was not there yet. So I think I was very early also in the market. And sometimes that's what happened. You launch something so innovative, you're too early, So you have two options, you either wait, but you never know. Timing is a funny thing, right? You never know for sure when is the right time. That's why you have to continue fighting until the timing comes. I just got tired, So and then I felt a new passion with the digitization aspect.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I did what I had to do, and let me move on. But I was too early. But I will always say, when you build a business, it depends on the business. But let's say you want a business to scale.
Yeah.
Find a local partner and expand outside the market as quickly as possible, but expand to a partnership model, develop a model to license or JV your solution, and do that and start finding the right partner and all that, because that takes time also. But don't try to do everything yourself, man. It's too energy intensive and capital intensive.
Yeah.
So that would be the some of the things I would do. But the thing is, I always feel like you have to go to certain things to learn, right? If you knew what you know now, what would you learn really? Because now you know. I think the learning process is really important.
Yeah.
It's really important, and not just learning, but sharing also that knowledge. It's very important. That's why I commend stuff like this, because we have a problem in this ecosystem in sharing real information of what to do, how to do it, that. But yeah, that would be a little bit what I would have changed a little bit.
No, I feel you when it comes to being tired. I think a lot of people talk about, especially all these tech gurus on Twitter and stuff. They talk about, like a startup doesn't fail, a startup doesn't fail. It's more like the founder goes through burnout. Yeah. That's really what happens, right? Because when you get tired, then you're just like, okay, I just don't have the energy to keep chasing these people around, these regulations and stuff. So let me just move on to the next thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then you realize maybe if I would have stayed a little bit.
There's nothing wrong with moving on.
Yeah.
This is your journey, and it's not the journey of anybody else. You take on this journey. First of all, most of your friends and family don't believe in you in the first place, right? So you're not building, and it took me a long time to realize that, right? You have to stop worrying and thinking about others. That's one of the biggest problems with entrepreneurs, right? Worrying about the surroundings, the noise outside on their ears. This is your journey. You tired, but it's a lonely road, man. Entrepreneurship is a lonely road, man. And it's not for everybody. I've known people who went cuckoo during starting businesses. When I say cuckoo, is they lost it. They lost it, right? So it's not for the faint of heart, man. This game is no joke. It's a battle. I always compare. Some people don't like this analogy, but I always compare entrepreneurship with war. It's literally a war zone. You're fighting for your survival. And literally, that's what you do. You're a survivor and over the survival of your team, right? And it's a war. And if you don't take it seriously, if you don't play the long-term game, if you don't really master how to manage your stress, there's a big component of managing your stress that you need to master. And get a job. Flat out, man. Get a job, man.
Yeah. Who is it for? Like, what is the right reason to build a company or to be an entrepreneur, to choose that journey, knowing it's the most stressful thing you will ever do in your life? Every day you're almost going to be like, why the hell am I doing this? I'm a smart guy, probably get a job somewhere.
Yeah.
But why the hell would you do this?
Because you don't want to live in regrets, right? If you have an idea, I see it all the time. I have this idea. It's eating you today, tomorrow, for a whole week. And if you don't pursue that idea, you're going to have regrets. Remember, we only live once, man. That's it. You only got one life. There's no second, third chance. No. And the worst life is the life of regrets. It's just the worst one. I have no regrets. Everything I've done, failure or not, I've done it. I tried it, didn't work. Hey, I did it, you know? I know. The same for me, you know? Move on, you know? But regrets, it eats you from the inside. And I think that's why people get into so-called entrepreneurship, because they have something inside them telling them, this is a good idea. You should try. Now your mind tricks you. You know, that's when the mind starts playing tricks on you. Yeah. When it starts telling you, hey, your family is going to be like, da-da-da-da. Hey, your girl might leave you because, you know, hey, your friends might make fun of you. So you start creating doubts before you even started anything, you know, which is what the problem is. But the question you should always ask yourself, if you have an idea, if I don't do this idea, will I regret it? If your answer is yes, then do it. Worst case scenario, you fail. The job will always be there, man. I mean, maybe AI might change a few things, but the job will always be there, you know? So it's the regret part, but it's not for everybody, because anytime you do something you've never done before, yeah, you can talk to a few people, but it's very difficult for anyone to convey the challenges and all that, you know? You can tell somebody, man, it's hard, it's difficult, but it's very difficult for them to feel that pain you went through, right? So it's always good for them to go through that pain, right? To understand what it takes. And then at some point, they'll see, is this really for me? You know, but you got to go through that journey if you really have an idea. Now, the problem I see a lot is people want to be entrepreneur because it's cool, so-called cool. Now, that's dangerous because you not really have any purpose. You have no passion. You're just doing things just because you think it's going to, you know, it's cool. And then and you're going to waste time. You might make it or might not. It depends also. You never know. You might focus because you in the middle, you might find some focus and really take that seriously. It might happen, but that's dangerous, you know. I always say you got to have something that you're passionate about. Because again, what's going to drive you in the first 6 to 12 months is that passion. It's not the money. The money ain't coming.
The money ain't coming.
The money ain't coming, man. You know, just be okay with it. Yeah. Right? The money ain't coming. First of all, and mistakes I made also, you know, I build stuff for money, which is the wrong thing. You build stuff to solve a problem, or you build stuff to create value, right? The money will eventually come if what you're building has real value. So you shouldn't even be thinking about money. You should be thinking about what you're building, for whom, and what value do you bring to them. And you keep focusing on the value, you keep talking to that customer base, and make sure that you have the most value, the money will come. I always say it's not the goal that is important, it's the process, right? The goal will come if you focus on the process. So you shouldn't even be thinking about the goal. Focus on the process. It's not what you get, it's what you learn for what you're doing, and you keep doing it, learning, pivoting, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's a different mindset, but you learn as you go, right? All this I learn as I did all those things. But those who focus on money are those who quit the fastest, because the money ain't coming.
It ain't coming, man.
It ain't coming, man. You're waiting for the word.
Tell me about stress a little bit. So, you know, you run a bunch of different businesses over the many years, right? And so you've told me what you would have done in terms of like, you know, let's say the business you recently just sold out. But then tell me a little bit about stress. How do you now manage, with the experience you have running multiple businesses, how are you managing your stress now?
Simple, meditation. I meditate a lot. I read a lot about meditation. I read about a lot about controlling your thoughts, because stress is really the thoughts that you create in your mind, right? It's really, you know, we have a tendency as humans to go in the dark side before it even happen. So a little bad thing happened, poof, that's the worst thing that ever happened. And you start adding more bad stuff that haven't even happened yet, you know? That's just our mind playing tricks. I call it playing tricks on you. So you have to meditate. You have to learn how to clear your mind. You have to learn how to stay focused. you got to keep your mind into the bigger picture, right? That's going to eliminate or at least minimize all those dark sides and all. But meditation helps me a lot. I meditate twice a day, morning and evening. And I read a lot about meditation. I have a gardener now for the last 18 months now. I grow foods in my garden. It keeps me calm. So there's two things I do when I'm really stressed out. I either go to sleep right away, just because my mind is just going 360, right? Yeah. So I'm like, go to bed, or I just go in my garden. I'm looking at my plants and pick up some tomatoes and all. It takes my mind off the issues. But you have to understand that your business is not everything. It's not even you, man. Yeah. It's just an extension of what you're doing, right? We take this so personally. We take it, it's so inward, like, this is like a child to us, right? Yes. And that's where the emotion mixed to the thought process kind of get mixed up on your brain. So I would recommend meditation. Find something that calms you down, but don't every time you stress and all, you gotta ask yourself, first of all, we like I said, we always go to this dark side before even fully dark, right? So just evaluate yourself, and sometimes I know some friends of mine, talking to others also help. And the community should also talk more about the failure, the challenges, the stress, not just success. Yeah. Or you see on WhatsApp and all, it's, we raised $2 billion, this and that. We should also find a way to talk about the stress, how to mitigate that. But that's a very good question. It's a big problem in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. It's a huge problem.
No, 100%. I agree with you. I think meditation is one of the biggest things, because I think, when you start meditating a lot, I think there's a famous philosopher who say that we suffer more imagined troubles than actual reality. It's like you think it is the worst thing that could ever happen. But once you start really meditating and like, let me be in the present right now, what's happening, right? Okay, this is a problem. Okay, cool. We're not going to die. Yeah. And if you don't have that kind of level of control of your mind, it's even hard to lead people because there might be a crisis. Yeah. And if your team sees that, even you as a boss, if you lost your mind, and then all of them are like, okay, we're all dead then, the business is done. But if you're able to like, okay, let me be the person who's more calm. Even if your head in your mind, you're like going crazy. Yeah. But, how do you not project that to even other people as well?
Absolutely. No, I definitely believe, that's why I say entrepreneurship is not for everybody, man. Can you imagine your panic and your team looking at you all breaking down in front of them? It's a done deal, man. It's done.
No, they're polishing.
They're gonna look at you like, man, let me polish my resume right quick, man. I gotta get out of here.
It's going down.
So it's not for everybody, man. Because you gotta be strong, not just for yourself, for the team.
Yeah.
You can't tell them everything, because it might demoralize the team also. You got to find a way to solve the big problem, yourself with the core team. One of the biggest challenges that stress entrepreneurs is payroll. Payroll is always a big issue. Yeah. Especially when you get paid not all time and all those things. Communication is very important. So you have entrepreneurs that are not very big on communication. And they don't say anything. They wait till the money comes to tell the team, and the team is waiting. So there's a lot of ingredient and you can develop those things. Yeah. But you have to make sure you're developing them, right? To become a good leader, entrepreneur, so on and so forth. But stress is a big one, man. Stress is a big one. I don't know any entrepreneur that does not go through stress from time to time. And people think it's just for startup. No. Even if you have a strong revenue and all those things, I had an entrepreneur I was coaching from Nigeria, fintech, and the regulator changed a policy and messed up their whole business. The guy didn't sleep for 3 days. We were just talking. Because he didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do either because I'm not in that space. Yeah, I don't know the laws, policy, the contact. I was just listening and talking to the person, Finally, he solved it, but it can, and it hits you The worst stress are the one that hit you when you don't expect it. Yeah. Man, mess up your whole week, man. Yeah. And you're just like, what am I going to do? That's always the first question. What am I going to do? But, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I'm very resourceful. That's one of my biggest strengths, finding resources to solve problems.
Yeah.
I'm very big on that, solving problems. But yeah, you got to be resourceful, man.
Yeah.
You got to figure out how to get the money to pay the people, so on and so forth. But it's a big one, man.
And I know you're a big family guy, right?
Yeah.
So how does that, let's say, the route you chose, in your career of being an entrepreneur, how does that impact your, family? I think that's also another topic that as entrepreneurs, it's part of the job description. Also, it's part of when you're, let's say, looking for a partner, to spend the rest of your life with and build a family with, they have to understand the kind of game they're getting themselves into. So how have you seen that your entrepreneurial journey impact, let's say, time with your partner, also, let's say, family time, don't have a lot of time, very stressed, from periods of, for long periods of the year, let's say. And you spend a lot of time on your business, in mind, your time, you're at work all the time. So tell me a little bit about that and what kind of strategies have you implemented in terms of that not affecting your personal life that much?
Yeah, so my family dynamics is kind of unique because I was lucky. My wife is also an entrepreneur. So
be chaotic.
Yeah. So we have a lot of conversation of things that don't work, challenges that we're going through.
Yeah.
But we feed for each other. We feed with from each other's challenges. We share ideas. For me, my priority have changed. As I said, I started with focusing on money. And I started focusing on having an impact and all those things with the kiosks. Now my focus is my kids, right? My family, my kids. So I spend more time focusing more on doing stuff for them and all those things. You gotta you gotta make sure that your priorities are not business. Your priorities stay family first, business second. Right? If you have that mindset, then you'll be all right. Now, again, I'm an OG in the game, right? So business don't affect me like it used to be. You talk about stress. I used to be a roller coaster type of guy. As I told you, Mark, I had to go with the trucking business. My stress was affecting my health. That's how bad, because I didn't know how to manage stress and all those things. Now stress don't really move me because my business is no longer something that I value so much that when the business is good, I'm in a good mood. When the business is bad, I'm in a bad mood. It's no longer that case. Now, when this stuff are bad, I have a 1 hour of bad mood and all that, but it goes away real quickly and I stay focused. But I think keeping the family first and business second is key, and having a very understanding partner is very important. But like I said, I was lucky. I am lucky. She's in business. She understands the game. And plus now I build to sell. I don't build no more business. Before I was building to grow and grow and grow and grow. Now I build to sell, man. Yeah. Always, I give myself a timeline. I sell. And then that's it, man. At least now I see the exit.
Yeah.
Before I didn't see no exit, and you talk about that. I remember at one point, I thought I was going to go public and all this nonsense. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but the reality of the game is you got to understand this game is not fair, right? It's not, and you can be the most intelligent guy, the best product in the market, but your network will dictate where you're going to go in life, right? And that's why I'm big on networking also. Now in the last 10 years, because I realized I've seen I don't know if you can say shitty product. Yeah, people that have shitty product but a great network and still making it because they get deals and all that because I have a strong network. And I've seen guys that have great products not making a dent because they don't have the right network. So, but going back to family, man, my priority is family. So business don't really affect me as much as it used to back in the days.
Yeah, I think I like that mentality. I think I was having the same conversation with Noah Jr. It was on the podcast. So a long time ago, he told me something that was very interesting is that you have to build, thinking about selling, when you're building a company. And then when he told me that, I think it was like our second or third year in business. And I was like, no, like, when you're still very naive, that's already giving up too quickly. You have to, look at all these other guys, the Jeff Bezos, they run their companies for 20 years and still successful. But then after a couple of years, I sent him a text. I was like, what you say was true. Now I understand what you were trying to tell me. And I think I get it now. And I think you start realizing that the more you run a business for long periods of time, not just because you really want to sell the business, but also because it also, in a way, indirectly shapes, gives you more focus. Because now you're thinking about, okay, what is the end goal? If somebody was to, take this and buy this company, what would they be buying? Is it an amazing piece of technology? Is it the kind of traction that we have? So that when they're trying to expand into this market, they don't have to do it themselves, and you can just be like, hey, just plug and play. So I think that really shapes you. I think you have to be people talk about this. They say first-time founders focus too much on the product and getting the perfect product. A second founder starts focusing on distribution. They're like, it doesn't matter. Even if we have an MVP, we just have to distribute it as quickly as possible. We have to get customers. That's the only thing. If anything, when you're building your second startup, you start thinking about, can I pre-sale, this product? Can I get money first before I even build the thing? So you just go around selling it to people, telling them, we will build it, but you put down a payment right now. And I feel like, again, you have to build your first startup, focus on the product, be very, very, very obsessed about that. But then for your second one, you're just thinking about sales. That's the only thing you think about.
No, I agree. But again, the ecosystem is missing that components, right? Mm-hmm. Because to sell, you have to have an ecosystem that is dynamic enough to in a merger and acquisition game, M&A as they call it. And we don't have that yet in Rwanda. And not to get too deep, and it depends also on the structure of your company. It's much easier to sell a company that is structured overseas than it is in Rwanda, for example, as of now. There's a lot of key play that will make this ecosystem to be dynamic enough. But I was years back, I was reading a statistic. The number one creator of wealth in the US is the sales of companies. That's what create wealth in the US, right? Because when you sell, you get a capital gain. You get not capital gain. You get a cash most of the time of and that's considered wealth. Because a lot of time the value of a company is on paper. Yeah. You can't really touch it or use it to buy anything, right? Mm-hmm. You create that value. It's on paper. But it's only when you have a transaction of sale or merger that you can turn that value into cash. And that ecosystem is missing. And until we develop that ecosystem, there's not going to be that many sales. But I agree with you on the sense where building to sell is one aspect also. There's a lot of ways. Licensing is a good one also, but it's not well developed or understood in the ecosystem. There's a huge market in tech for licensing. People don't even realize that. If you have a very unique technology in the API space or in a very niche, you can license that technology, right? Telcos do a lot of licensing deals, for example. Banks also do a lot of licensing deals. So there's a lot of ways to exit per se. But the challenge is as soon as you get investor money, that's really what the most important part. You have to have a path to return that money to them. Because no investor wants to ride with you forever. No investor. Unless they're part of the team, co-founder and all the investors. But no investor wants to be in that journey. No, they're giving you money in hope that you return X amount to them. The challenge is we're looking for investor, but we're not offering them what's going to be not just my return, because you can say, oh, we're going to 10X in X amount of time. Okay, great, but how am I going to get my money out? And today, the only option I hear is, hey, you can sell the share back to the company. Well, if your company is cash poor, how are you going to buy it out? You're going to get a loan and all. So that ecosystem needs to be developed. But I totally agree. There has to be and that's why you see South Africa, Nigeria has a very strong M&A ecosystem. South Africa has a very strong M&A. Kenya has a very strong M&A ecosystem, right? So you see a lot of deals locally of company being sold. You know, we need to do the same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about what you're building right now.
Oh yeah, now so we helping SME with the digital transformation. So we in what we call storage and computing power space. So we're building what we call a distributed cloud infrastructure. We bring infrastructure to your location as a business, where you can have a suite of application you can access from that box, from security camera system, POS system, table management system, event, whatever application you need that can be run locally, where you can access it online and offline. So basically what we're trying to do is solve the infrastructure layer gap that existed in Africa.
Yeah.
And that idea was born with the kiosk, actually. So we had initially built that box for Wi-Fi and content. So we used to store content on the box, on this box inside
what
the
kind
kiosk.
of content?
Content like educational content, entertainment. We did a little bit of entertainment content. We did some government messaging also. But the key was, because it's locally hosted, there's less latency or issue. If your internet is low, you don't care about internet. Now the content is local. As long as you know Wi-Fi radius of that box, you can access the content without having internet on your phone. And then when we sold the kiosks, we expanded that technology. Now you can deploy your application on that infrastructure, your full application. You can deploy entertainment content also, but we're doing gaming now on the box. What else are we doing? We're about to do AI, so you'll be able to build small AI models on this infrastructure. So it's very exciting. You know, it's like anything else. I'm really excited. I believe now this is the time for digital transformation. Mm. And the problem is, on this space of digital transformation, we copying the West again. This is the biggest problem with Africa. You know, we don't build a homegrown solution. So we bring in data centers, which are very expensive to do. And but 70% of the companies that need access to infrastructure are SMEs, and they need low-cost infrastructure. And you cannot do that with a traditional data center because of the initial cost they have to spend. There's a limit to the fees they can charge you to the service they provide. Yeah. So they have what they call a centralized model. We're building what we call a decentralized or distributed model. Yeah. So it's really catered to the African market and really for SMEs. So we're trying to show that, hey, we can solve our own problem into that space. So same. So yeah, we work with a few clients right now, and we just launched in Jan actually. So
yeah, I think I saw the launch.
I've been active, man. I'm quiet because we're developing. We're now just posting. But yeah, we have our biggest client is Baker Arena. We're doing some interesting thing there. We're going to be doing some public Wi-Fi projects soon. But yeah, it's really the next wave, and then after that, that's it.
Yeah. So give me an interesting use case of the product you're building, right? So take you to kind of like the user journey.
Sure. So one of our customers, for example, a restaurant. I'll tell you a restaurant. Restaurant today, if they want a security camera system, they have to buy the camera with the storage hardware. Yeah. If they need Wi-Fi, they need to buy a router. And then if they need application, they need to deal with another vendor, like for POS, for table management and all that. So, and then if their internet goes down, they can't access those applications because they're all in the cloud. Yeah. So they need internet to access it. So what we're saying is, we're bringing you a mini server with Wi-Fi capabilities to your premise. And you can add all those services, application that you're using into one system, and you have one dashboard to access all of them. And you can add now ideas that you may have on top of that infrastructure. So once we control the infrastructure layer, you got to look at us as a Amazon or where they control the infrastructure layer. But we bring that infrastructure now locally close to you. And so your database, your data, your customer data is stored also on the box, right? So now you're in control of also your data. So those are and it is much cheaper. Because first of all, it's much cheaper because we control the infrastructure layer.
Yeah.
What you pay is not just the service. When you get your cost on an application you use, you get that cost for the application, but they also include the cost of the infrastructure they pay. So they do calculation, obviously, what the costs are, and they have to integrate. But because we own our own infrastructure, we can give you the cost at 30 to 40% cheaper than anybody else. So that's really what we do.
That's incredible.
No, it is. It took 3-4 years to develop because we built our own operating system.
Yeah.
Not from scratch, but we customize a Linux-based operating system. You can containerize, not to be too technical, but you can containerize, virtualize your applications. We do remote updates of the box. But we own the whole layer of the infrastructure. This is not a product we took from outside. I truly believe, especially with AI now. So what's happening now, especially with AI, there is the demand for infrastructure has skyrocketed, especially for computing power. So we really want to, not now because AI is going to take time to grow here on the continent. So we move, for example, from CPU type of server to GPUs now. So we really want to bring a new low-cost infrastructure in the marketplace. That's really what our main goal is. The application layer, we plan to open this to third-party developers. So if you're a developer, we're going to build our marketplace. You want to develop a cool application to serve SMEs, restaurant, for example, you'll be able to build it on our marketplace. We load it on the box. And every time a customer activates your application, we have a revenue sharing model on that. We don't want to deal with the application layer.
Yeah.
We just want to deal with the infrastructure layer and then open it to people to build it. But it's a big project. It's very difficult. It's complex. We did raise a little bit of money because it was expensive. But yeah, I mean, again, it's another, I've always liked challenging problems to solve, man.
Yeah.
It's a good and bad thing. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
It's a good thing because it's exciting. But it's I won't say bad, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
The OS took 2.5 years to build, man. Man, we went to a lot of different companies. There was nobody on the continent that has expertise in operating system to build it. So we have to go overseas and all. But hey, that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, man, I truly respect. I think I also love when the problem is a lot harder.
Yeah,
It's not hard.
Me too.
I'm like, somebody else can do it. It's not that fun, And also another thing that you mentioned, which I think is very important, is the aspect of building infrastructure businesses. So, I'm getting into that space as well. And I think that's what we need more. And that's more fun than actually building a product or service on top of an infrastructure.
Exactly.
I would love to be an open AI and build, that ChatGPT infrastructure or that AI model that other startups can come in and say, okay, great, we can use this for our own use case, because I feel like that's more fun and also you get to work on something very tangible. But tell me a bit about there's a reason why you build an infrastructure business, and tell me about that as opposed to building a product or service business. And why is that important that we should be thinking about infrastructure a lot more?
No, again, I've done products, right? I've done kiosks. There's no, plus this was already part of an existing project. All we did, we expanded on it, right? I don't think, if I had sold the kiosk and this, I don't know if I would have got into the infrastructure. But what was happening is kind of COVID. When COVID happened, digitization skyrocketed, right? Everybody was on Zoom. Everybody was on Teams. Everybody was digitizing, talking virtual work and all those things. And then the need of infrastructure that's really where the idea came of, well, how can we convert what we're doing to a full-fledged infrastructure, right? So that's really what, I guess timing, because timing is very important in business, right? And the timing was perfect for this, right? If I had done this idea 5, 6 years ago, again, I would have been dead. I would have been too early. But I think this is the right time for that. The demand for infrastructure is going to keep growing up. And what I see in the market today is we are not addressing low-cost infrastructure. We're only trying to bring, as I said earlier. So it was more of an extension to what I was doing. So I didn't feel like I had to do a huge learning curve to get into that space. And then timing came with COVID. I was like, this is the right time. Let's get on board. Again, I didn't expect a few things. Obviously, I didn't expect the technology part be so challenging. Because when you build a distributed system has its own layer of challenges on its own, but that's part of business. But I see now, I mean, you've seen the law, the privacy law now.
Yeah.
If you want to store your data outside, you need special authorization. I see Africa moving. There was another crazy story that happened a few months ago. Which country is that? Mali? Where Mali, the government, one of the countries in West Africa kicked out the French, right?
Yeah.
But one of the French company was holding the data of all their citizens. So they turn it off. Turn it off. No access. So that government, what they did was they hired a bunch of kids to hack in the system to transfer the data back to, it was on the news. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
I mean, government that don't understand the importance of data sovereignty will get in trouble, right? Now, the problem I see is we're inviting foreign companies to build those big data centers, right? And it's not really addressing the big problem. Banks, telecoms, government, they'll use traditional data center. But if you really want to digitize an ecosystem, you need affordable infrastructure. And we're not there yet. We see it now more with internet. It's getting more and more affordable, but storage and computing power is still unaffordable for a lot of stuff. I mean, if you use Google or any other, you got to pay a minimum of $100. Now, I don't know if you ever use local data centers. No, okay.
Yet.
So whole nother ballgame.
It is crazy expensive.
Not only is crazy expensive, you need to hire a DevOps guy, to just run and operate that. And that's another thing, for our system, for example, it's AI powered, so you don't need technical skill sets to deploy your application. So we're really catering to the space, but I totally agree. It's going to be massive.
Yeah.
So we're in the space what we call edge. Edge is called infrastructure closer to the user, basically. That's what it's called. So this is the last layer to lower the digital access cost. Internet is just a vehicle, right? But when you bring infrastructure closer to the user, now your costs become very, very low because you're hosting your data locally instead of internationally or even regional, closer to the user. So there's a lot more games. And we're not the only one playing this game, right? Google is working on edge infrastructure. Microsoft is working on edge infrastructure. We're just doing it a little bit differently. But it's definitely going to be big. Infrastructure is the next, but it's a long-term game.
It's a long-term game.
It's not a fintech, no.
It's really hard. It's really hard.
It's been 4 years now. I got 6 more years and then.
Yeah. Fundraising.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about that. That's, I remember one of the first things that we talked about was that, and a couple of years ago we talked about that. You've talked about this online, multiple times. It's the hottest topic on the continent, hottest topic, with every founder. Tell me about that. How has your, let's say, fundraising philosophy changed over the years? When you started, in the middle, and up to today, how do you think about that versus the new wave, which is, hey, be profitable, and nobody wants to take a bet on all these dreams now that founders used to sell back in the days. Now it's more about unit economics, what's happening out there. So tell me about your fundraising philosophy.
Listen, man, where do I start? So first of all, I started raising on the kiosk business. I never raised before. All my business was self-funded. if I can call it like this. My mama funny, most of it. Mom, thank you. I just want to let you know. Big shout out to Mom. You know, she never seen any returns, but we appreciate it. Thank you, man. You kept me afloat for so long, man. So Mom was, you know, and not to change it. So now I'm thinking like, you know, mom love is powerful, man. You call and got a crazy idea. She know it's crazy, but she's still gonna support you. Anyway, yeah. So the kiosk was the first business that I raised because I thought I was gonna be able to self-fund. Then I had my money. I had my money. I had a good amount of money. I had already invested on the design and all that, but I thought I was gonna be profitable. Again, in 6 to 8 months, didn't happen. And but I got lucky. This investor reached out to us called Green Tech Capital. They were looking for a company with such technology to invest in. So they were our first investor. Then we had 2 more investors after that. But what I've learned to this day, because we also raised a little bit for this project, the VC world in Africa is a copycat of the VC world in the West, which cannot work in Africa. I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. That's why you don't see too many Africans attracting VCs. And the company you see attracting VC, they're asking them for growth. Back then, now the matrix have changed. Now they're focusing on revenue. But still, the matrix have to be there. They want 30, 40% monthly growth. It's very difficult to achieve that in Africa because of how fragmented the market is. In the US, you can go in 50 states in the first month. There's no laws bearing you for going from one state to another. If I go from Rwanda to Uganda, it's a whole different laws, different rules, different ecosystem, different mindsets. Going from Uganda to Kenya, I got to set up shop. I got to get an account. I get one account, one lawyer in the US. I got to get account for each market. So the ecosystem is so different that the need of VCs cannot be matched by a few. And I remember on Twitter, people were getting excited. 2021, 2022, we're going from 3 billion to 5 billion on VCs. And 60% was going to fintech. And out of the fintech, it was 3 or 4 was getting 80% of the money. And I was saying, people, we're talking about 54 countries raising 5 billion. And we are excited about that. Don't get me wrong, it's increasing, but we are not, it doesn't trickle down. Let me put it this way. So the amount was low, but the mentality of the VCs, we don't even raise from VCs anymore. I only raise from angel investor. And I want to tell all startups, don't waste your time because we're also looking for this stamp. Oh, man, got a VC aligned. But we don't understand the implication of bringing, even if you get a VC, there is some matrix you have to prove, VC needs to exit out at some point. So you have to be, and that's why you see a lot of companies have structure in the US. Yeah. A lot of people, most of the companies that raise capital, VC capital, they have a structure in the US, mostly, So, but we don't tell that to the young guy. The guy who's registered here to run that does not understand that he's limited. And his limitation is not his fault or her fault, right? It's because structurally, I remember there was I'm not going to mention the name, it was a VC. They did invest, but the due diligence took 6 months. If it was in the US, I would have had the money in 2 weeks after they approve it. So it was not due diligence of the company law, it was due diligence of the laws of the country. So they hired a lawyer to know, and I know a lot of things have been trying to change, but still, if you, and this is human stuff. Human nature is very fun. If you have an entity in the US, your valuation goes up. Same company, same people, same everything. Yeah. But your valuation is different if you have a US entity than if you have a Rwandan entity or any African entity. So there's a lot of unfairness in the ecosystem. Again, unfortunately, we try to copy. I know there's, I'm not going to talk bad about them, but I got an innovation fund, for example. there's only one run company in that innovation fund. To me, that's a problem. It's a big problem because innovation fund is co-funded by the government. Mm-hmm. But the matrix, the type of company they're looking for, it's very difficult for a run company to achieve that because of the size of the market, the difficulty. So they have to change. There has to be a new type of formula that is adapted to the ecosystem, and not just the Rwandan ecosystem, the African ecosystem. It's different. It takes longer. They want you to be 100,000 users in 6 months. It's not possible in Africa. Even if you have a digital, we talk about all those fintech. They took them 10 years to get where they are. All those that are worth $1 billion plus, they took them 10 years to get where they are. So there has to be a new formula. But as far as startup, I would focus more on angel investor. Don't waste your time with VCs. Your chance to get a VC in your cap table is less than 1%. The energy you're going to put on that, you could be using it to build your business. The chance for you to get an angel investor is much high. Much, much high. The only difference is if you need 100,000, you may need to have 5 angel investors that do 20K plus. You have a better chance to achieve that than to do a VC. I hope the VC world will change. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Plus, a lot of money has been pulled back. Last time I checked, we only the continent raised like $3 billion compared to 5. So every time there's an economic shock, Africa is the first one that suffer. Everybody start running. Yeah, go to Asia, go back to the US, go back to Europe. So we give them the red carpet for nothing, pretty much. For me, at least that's my take. Yeah.
But do you think that like this the bubble that was created after COVID, where because I think what COVID, one of the things that it did is that it just showed that a lot of sectors needs to be digitized, right? Which is the reason why a lot of founders were stuck in their houses and they're like, okay, I can't get food here. Like, how do I build something that can get food here? How do I healthcare? All kinds of things, ed tech, boom. But then do you feel like, going back to the topic that we talked about, which is entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Do you feel like this wave of founders being announcing that they've fundraised online fuels this mentality into every young person who feels like they're a little bit smart and they're like, oh my God, I want to be like Henri. He's raised a couple of millions of dollars. Like, why not me? Let me also become an entrepreneur as well. And because I'm gonna create this cool idea of an app or a platform. I'm going to watch a few videos of Steve Jobs and the way he was presenting. I'm going to create a nice pitch deck. And I'm just going to start applying everywhere and start becoming tech entrepreneur as well. And, that's going to help me succeed. And then we're forgetting this notion of, even if you look at the top 10 most valued, companies in the world, most valuable companies, look at the Apples and you really dig deep into the stories of these companies. They did not start thinking that they need venture capital. If anything, venture capital came to look for them because they were like, oh, you guys are onto something. We want to bet on you so we can get money. And if you watch, the Steve Jobs movie, he was really tough with the VC who came to them and said, hey, we want this. It was like, no, this is what we want. If you're not going to give us that money, we're not interested because we know we're onto something. So I have a feeling that we are forgetting the notion of business, which is, again, going back to providing value, solving a problem in an ecosystem, not necessarily thinking about, I'm going to solve this. It's too big of a problem. I'm just one person in a small country in Africa. I'm going to need a lot of money to fund it. Should that be the mentality that we think about when we're building companies? Should it be that you're actually raising because you actually need the money, not because you can?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, listen, young people are very impressionable, right? And the media today, when I started entrepreneurship was looked down upon. I come from a time where you become an entrepreneur because you failed in school. Straight up. And that was almost my story, right? I did finish college, but it was tough. It took 7 years instead of 4. Oh, wow. I tried to quit a few times. When you said you were an entrepreneur, this guy didn't make it.
It's the only thing that go to everything else.
Yeah. Couldn't get a job. You ain't got no skills. You know,
Ain't got a degree.
you ain't got nothing. Yeah, the only option is start his own business. Today with the media, they've flipped the story now.
Yeah.
And true story. I remember contacting what's that media from the US actually, who always TechCrunch. You know that they only post when you raise money about your company. That's all. They tell you that. The email was clear. Have you raised money? No, not yet. Okay, call us when you raise money. We'll put your story on there. And it made me realize that it's becoming the punchline. And people reading that think that's the punchline to be successful. You know? But you rarely see all those people that raise millions. A lot of them fail still. We don't meet, the media has not really portrayed them as much, but they're out there. 100 million. And you ask yourself, you know, so raising money does not dictate that you will be successful. That's the first thing entrepreneurs need to understand. Unfortunately, you can tell entrepreneurship anything. If you're young, you're going to do what you want to do, right? And you're going to follow and you're going to learn. Most of us learn the hard way anyway. But the reality is it does not dictate your success. Now, some businesses that are capital intensive do need cash. But you need to structure that from day one, right? Especially hardware company. Deep tech, for example, biotech. Those are very, very long-term game where you need capital. And that's why you don't see them that as much in Africa, because there's not that much capital. But this media thing is really hurting the ecosystem, flat out. It's hurting the ecosystem and you're hurting the young. I know young people that their dream is to raise. They really, because they want that label, they want to be, I raised from a VC. And you have guys in the US, same way, by the way. This is not an African thing, and this is a worldwide thing. You know, if you get a raise from, what's the advice? That you don't need money, and most of them raise money.
Yeah, money doesn't make you happy.
Yeah. And then you ask for money, they ain't got no money to give you. The reality is a little bit more complex, right? Because you need money to grow. You need money to expand. Now, I do agree that if you raise too soon, you're not going to understand all the moving part of your business, which is one of the biggest challenge with entrepreneur. They don't want to know what's happening they don't know about accounting and all, so they don't interested in reading their books. You don't need to be good at everything, but you need to be aware of all the moving components of your business. It's very important. And I won't say not having any money. Again, depending what stage, which business, but let's talk about number 2, innovation and invention. You need, because it takes time, you need at least the minimum to pay yourself, to pay the team. You don't raise, like if you raise millions of dollars on an idea, it's going to be very difficult. But I don't know any company, there's some company who've never raised and grew $2 billion, yes, in the US. But most companies I know raise money, man, $500,000. I mean, development costs money, right? You got to do some testing. But some people abuse that. You know, you have no control over that, right? You're always going to have bad players in anything, you know, that as soon as they raise, they buy Lamborghini, they buy a wagon, G-Wagon.
They start flying.
You know, they start flying jet or, you know, there is always going to be, you hear those stories all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think it's the money raising part, the issue, it's the founder, the issue. A bad founder, whether he has money or not, is not going to change much, right? He's going to do everything to get that money to do whatever he wants to do. But I think if we use as a good founder, that's why I'm a big promoter of venture studio, right? We've been riding on this accelerator wave now in Africa for the last 10 years. We haven't evolved much.
Accelerators.
Man, it's just, I made 8. But on the kiosk days, 8. And I didn't know, after a while I realized, and I still get emails now to join accelerators.
It will help you grow without
And they haven't changed. Their spiel is the same. We'll introduce you to investors.
What about the business model canvas?
Huh?
What about the business model?
What about it?
They put you to training, and then they start telling you, the first training is going to be identifying, your value proposition, mapping out all that stuff.
Just same thing, pitching 101, do your 3 minutes pitch. You got to learn how to do 3-minute pitch, And I don't want to knock them down. They serve their purpose in the beginning.
Yeah.
But the ecosystem has evolved. They didn't evolve with the ecosystem. Venture Studio is a very interesting model where they don't do all that. Because what an accelerator program try to make you is be good at all those things, which is not really the goal of a business. You're a founder, you're good at certain things. If you're not good at other things, you find somebody who complements you. So Venture Studio plug you into a system to help you with sales, to help you with social media marketing, to help you with product development. So they bring actually a team of people that can help you in all those different layers so you can go faster. And then usually the only thing I don't like about most venture studio, they try to be majority owner of the company because they do all that. But that's another conversation. But those are the models that can speed up the ecosystem. There's other gaps on the ecosystem. I mean, we can talk about it, but I don't want to deviate from what you were saying. But yeah, this idea of you don't need money is BS to me personally. Yeah, it's BS. It depends on it's case by case system, because you got people that need money that still can't get the money, right? That have proven what they're doing is working, that still can't get no money, And we only say this thing to African entrepreneurs. Oh, you don't need no money. I've seen so many people, coaches from overseas, the US especially, coming coaching African entrepreneurs, talking about you don't need money. I've been in the US. They tell you, raise. They tell you, look for money. You need to move fast. You need money to move fast. That's what they tell you over there. You want to dominate the market. I don't know, Peter Thiel. He will tell you, if you read the Uber story, they raise like crazy because their goal is to dominate the market. I'm not saying this model can work now in that space because it's already been there, but there's some space. But what I'm saying is the goal of Peter Thiel is to dominate the market. To dominate the market, you gotta have low price, put some marketing, you gotta crush your competitors. To do all that, you need capital. So I hate this double standard topic, but we need to also look at the case by case system. And what also is problematic for startups in Africa, they give too much equity for small amount of money. I've seen too many startups do that. I give you 30% for 20,000. That's all I need. Which is never the case. You never need just 20,000. When you get 20,000, you're going to need more. And at the end, they lose control of their company. They don't even realize it. So there's need of education of this equity stuff. But what we're missing in the ecosystem, let's focus on Rwanda. We need to find a way to get access to public money, allowing startups to go to the public market, and like crowdfunding, for example, crowd investing for those who want to have share, because crowdfunding is more of a donation. But crowd investing, for example, we have. The ecosystem is now well developed, so the access to capital is still very difficult. If you look at the people accessing capital here, the foreign companies doing business in Rwanda. Let's just be straightforward, and I have to say, I'm not knocking them down. They're doing a fantastic job, man. Every time I hop on a motor, it's an electrical car, electrical motor most of the time. So I love, but they have access to capital. We don't tell them not to raise capital. And, they raise capital. It's a tough business, by the way, what they're doing, right? There's hardware components and all those things, but they're raising millions, The Zipline raising millions, Why are we telling us not to raise millions when we have a big idea? I don't understand that concept.
It's because we can't.
We can't.
Haven't. Hard.
I haven't. I think we can, but we need ecosystem support. Let me put it this way. Listen, investor invest in success.
Yeah.
Investor won't come to Rwanda until they see a successful Rwandan-owned company.
Not one that was
from overseas. Yeah. I keep saying all the time, we always advertise also companies that are non-Rwandan, but because they have an entity here, but we don't understand structure. Wherever the IP is owned, that's where the real value is. And most of those companies, the IP is not owned in Rwanda. It's just a subsidiaries, but we promote them as the story. Now understand it's a way to promote that Rwanda has some success, but that's the wrong way to do it. What we need is to find a Rwandan-owned company and not only promote them, but support them, grow, and not just one. You need to see potential. There is no country in the world that become developed status, that become a developed country without developing their own technology. Straight up. So I understand that investor companies that have technology comes to business. It happens everywhere. But the country needs to look at the talent inward and support. I guarantee if we have 2-3 stories of success, and not success just in Rwanda, but success in Rwanda that have exported their technology outside, then money will come. More money will come for others. Because investors are just human like me and you. They go where they smell opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's no opportunity yet here because they don't see it. And we're promoting the wrong type of business, if I can say it like this. So until we do that, it's going to be very difficult. And that's why you register in the US. That's why you do. I mean, we are. I can't knock nobody else because. So when we started Kiosk, we were registered here. And all the subsidiaries and it was hurting us. It was just hurting us. So we had to change strategy. So until we do all those things, then, not much is going to happen in the marketplace. So it's just the reality. Right?
Yeah. Tell me about a sector that you're excited about right now.
Man, the sector that's going to be massive is the agriculture sector. No, hands down. With global warming happening, with populations going to double in the next 20, 30 years in Africa and double again by the end of the century, food security is going to be the biggest business ever. And I'm not talking about growing food. I'm talking about developing technology like hydroponics, growing food in urban settings to minimize the distance transport of those goods, processing, of course. Greener food, organic food is going to be a must. Disease, cancer is rising in Africa because, again, we're adopting the way of the West. Yeah, we're losing our ways. I'm serious. I lost my ways, for a long time till I'm back to more herbs, less carbs and all those things. I'm big now into green stuff. So, but the agriculture sector and everything that has to do with agriculture, especially agri-tech, sensor technology in agriculture, they call drop irrigation system. There's a lot of technology in that space, right? That's going to be huge. I don't know if you remember, but that's all over the world, including Africa. Pricing of food is ridiculous. It's crazy. And now you see, for me, if I have to pick one section within the agriculture, is urban farming. Urban farming is going to be huge because you cannot no longer depend, and it's happening already in the West, by the way. We even though we're in agriculture, Africa is really an agricultural continent. 80% of people are, but we haven't yet to learn how to maximize the yield from our land. But now you can grow, without the soil. There's a lot of new technology that I'm very excited about. Kenya is really leading the way, by the way, in the region. I saw these guys build a hydroponic system in Nairobi, and he's making a killing. It's a killing, so that to me is the biggest sector. All this technology and all, even though I'm in, will be small compared to the agribusiness by far. because the need is massive. And you can start seeing the global warming effect, right? The heat is ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
We never used to have, not only the heat, but the rainy season is no longer what it used to be all over. Part of technology will be to solve that. But the agribusiness is definitely the space that for the next 100 years will be unfazed by the economical change.
Tell me about climate tech. I think I know you're...
That's my space right there.
You're developing a very interesting passion for carbon credits. Tell me a little bit about that and what's the opportunity that you're seeing?
Listen, and I hope whoever works at the registry here in Rwanda or anywhere in Africa, listen to this. Because when I started the solar kiosk, carbon credit was very early stage.
And what is it for context?
Correct. So carbon credit is a system that was put in place to mitigate climate change. So what it is the companies, especially the big corporations like the oil company that produce so much CO2 that are bad for the environment, for them to contribute to the climate change, they have to buy what they call carbon credit from businesses that are good for the environment, that are doing solar business, cook stove, that are not producing, it's called CO2 neutral, that are not producing any CO2. So an oil company, for example, was producing X amount of CO2, will have to buy carbon credit to offset the bad behavior. That's pretty much what it is. Yeah. So they pay cash. So the fee, now the cost of the carbon credit keep fluctuating because there's so many different marketplaces for carbon credit. I think that's going to be consolidated. Not one, but there'll be a few left, or at least what's happening is though, around the world, net zero is going to become a law, not an option. Today is an option. To be a net zero country, it's an option. Everybody talks about it, it's going to become law. Now the question is the challenge with the carbon credit is, when I was starting, was how do you know that company that is doing a solar project is actually saying what they say they're doing? Number one, and they actually deploy that many solar panels that they say they do. So today, well, at least last time I checked, you have to get consultants that comes, investigate. The process is very long. It's very tedious. It's very expensive. So most of the small players are now participating in this carbon credit. It's always the big guys. There's one company that do cook stove that has a carbon credit. They get $3 million last time I checked. It's a foreign company. But now Rwanda just actually have a registry, because carbon credit, you have to have a registry by the government, and the registry is owned by governments around the world. So each government has to have their own registry. So you have to be registered at the registry to be able to qualify, to get carbon credit. So I hope they find a way to digitize the ecosystem to make the small player. But I think it's going to be a game changer because it's going to be another revenue stream for companies. So now if you're an impact company, you no longer need to depend so much on trying to tap some money to a low-income communities. You can earn your carbon credit and continue servicing your community without depending on revenue from them. Some people look at it as a subsidies. It's going to be a revenue that's going to be taxed most likely by government. But now you have big corporation paying you because of the good stuff you're doing to continue doing your good stuff and growing from it. So I think it's going to be a game changer on the impact space if, and I want to emphasize on this, if governments across Africa really want to find a way to incorporate all the impact players that are locally owned. Because if it's a foreign company, it's not benefiting the country that much, right? And then we all know that climate change impacts Africa more than any other region in the world. All right. So we'll see. It's starting to move. Rwanda just had this registry. There's a bunch of countries having their registry. We'll see if they digitize the ecosystem, and we want to be part of that journey. That's one of the reasons why we developed this infrastructure for also the carbon credit gate. So I'm excited. I think I should have started a kiosk now, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But yeah,
Henri, tell me a little bit. So there might be somebody listening here, young African, who wants to make an impact, wants to change the world, or who maybe is a young Henri who is a rebel, does not like authority, who wants to be the master of his or her own destiny. What would you tell them if they want to dive into entrepreneurship? What would you tell them in terms of, for example, how to first think about what sector to focus on or what problem to try and solve? And also from what you've learned with your entrepreneurship journey, what are some of the things that you would advise them to do that, you wish somebody would have told you?
Yeah, I mean, what I would tell, especially African entrepreneur, first is that your circumstances does not dictate your future, right? A lot of us, we think we need, at least at that time, we think there's a certain profile to be an entrepreneur, right? You got to go to the good school, Ivy League schools. You got to come from a good family, stuff like that. I hate it all, I think you need to get that mindset out of your head, number one. Number two, you need to find problems around your community. This is the first step you should do. Don't get distorted with what's happening outside. There's a lot of problem in every community. Every big project, every big company started focusing on a small problem first, and then you build on top of that. So I would say go for it, but go with your eyes both of your eyes open. Today, entrepreneur has much more access to information than when I was starting entrepreneurship. Whatever you want to do, watch a lot of YouTube video. There's YouTube video for any subject. You don't need to know a mentor. You can go on YouTube. There's topics on anything on YouTube. Even today, I spend hours on YouTube on different topics and all, just to keep informed what's happening and all those things. So do your research, but do your research in a smart way, right? Back in the days, you have to have a mentor. You have to have a mentor in your space. If you didn't know anybody, it was very difficult to do that. Now you don't need that anymore. Entrepreneurship is a lot about information. You got to feed your brain with the right information so you can minimize the error, making the wrong decisions or the choices. That's really what an entrepreneur is, because every day you're solving problems. That's the job of an entrepreneur. If you're not solving solutions, you're solving problems every day. But I want to say even more importantly to entrepreneur, know that this is the hardest thing you're going to be doing. So be really, really clear in yourself that this is not going to be an easy road. Are you ready for it? And nobody is really fully ready. But if you prepare your mind that this is going to be tough, the journey is less painful than if you say, I got this idea, man, I'm going to knock it out of the park in 6 months. Then the stress comes, then the disappointment, then the depression. Depression is also a big problem. So I would tell them, go in, do your research, get as much information as you can, but go with a full awareness that this is going to be the toughest thing you're going to do. Don't go in thinking you're going to be rich in 6 months. And if you're ready for that pain, because there's going to be some pain, then go for it. And don't worry about what people say to you. Because whatever idea you have, that idea is given to you, to nobody else but you. So you can't expect anybody else to understand what you're doing. There's a quote I read a long time ago that we live by sight, not by faith. We believe in what we see. We don't believe in you can paint a picture to somebody, 99% of people will not get it. because it's in your head. But if you paint it actually and they see with their eyes, they'll see, right? So it's a waste of time to even share your ideas or dreams to anybody else. Just do it, keep it for yourself, and get on grinding, man. Get on grinding. But I guarantee no matter what happens, as long as you don't give up, you'll achieve your dream. And even if you don't achieve it, you'll become a better person out of it than when you were when you started in that journey.
Ladies and gentlemen, Henri, thank you so much for probably one of the most authentic conversation that I've had on the podcast so far. And then you've been dropping these gems for many years now. And I really appreciate you coming in and really having this conversation with me. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people who are either going through their own entrepreneurship journey, thinking about doing it, or also see themselves in your story and saying, hey, I really, resonate with a lot of things you mentioned there. So thank you so much, and really excited about the new venture that you're building, and can't wait to see it succeed.
No, thanks for having me, man. Like I said, we need more of those sharing podcast information. The ecosystem really needed. So congrats on that. I don't even know how you do it. So congrats, man, for sure. I mean, this is really needed. I've been following some of your episodes. And I know it already helps some people, so keep going, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right, take care, man.